Hello, everybody, and welcome to the June 7th Thursday market recap. Just to start off, the S&P is pretty flat, down just 0.07%. The NASDAQ was down 0.7% as tech was absolutely hammered today. And the Dow was actually up 0.38% today, with a couple strong leaders there. So let's go off to our first company highlight. Let's follow up on our Tuesday edition and look at some of our social media stocks that we've been following, starting with Snapchat. We saw Snapchat get really hot with this big Citron buy and new price target of $17, and also this announcement of hiring of Amazon executives for their financial team. But after that huge run up, we saw a big drawback today. It was down as much as 7.5% today before settling at 3% down, back down to 1273, sitting right there on that 50-day moving average just about. So we'll continue to look into that for the end of the week and maybe even on Monday. So interesting there. No real news from Snapchat, just a drawback from that overheated purchase and really just profit taking. Looking over to Twitter, today was actually the first day that they were on the S&P 500. So let's check them out. Day one, pretty much with market, with tech getting totally hammered today. There's a pretty good drawback on Twitter, just 1%, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing too crazy. I wouldn't put too much thought into why that happened or really think of that as a catalyst for further losses in the future. It's really just moving with the market there. Now going on to what a little bit of follow-up from yesterday's episode, mainly AT&T and Comcast. Let's jump into AT&T here. We had yesterday an announcement that it was more likely that their Time Warner, or not an announcement, more of a DOJ rumor that their Time Warner deal had a better chance of going through. We had continuation on that momentum as T-Mobile is up 1.29% today. It really seems like people think that this Time Warner deal is going to go through and that T-Mobile is going to become a larger conglomerate than it already is and really control a huge chunk of that cable market and be able to offer that through their AT&T service plan as well. I think they've been doing free streaming of cable, and they'll now own more cable owners through that and sort of be able to offer this better package deal and increase their profits. Jumping over to Comcast, who's put in a bid to buy Sky Sports. There's actually a little bit of a drawback today. I think that's sort of in trend with what the general industry has been doing. But again, their acquisition is less of a sure thing. They have a little competition there with Disney also vying to buy Sky Sports over there in the UK. So there's a little bit of a pullback on Comcast, but keep up to date on that acquisition news. That's what's going to be the driver over the next couple of weeks for these guys. On to today, let's talk about a little bit of what drove the Dow in the upward direction, starting with Costco. Costco has been on really an incredible run over this past year. Everyone thought they were going to be done with Amazon, but they've proven time and time again that that's really not the case. They led the Dow in growth today with 2.5%. I guess minus McDonald's. And that's really because they had incredible May sales, as you can see there on the top of the news. They announced today that they had record-breaking sales for May, which leads to a record-breaking stock price for Costco, and a nice 2.5% jump there. Moving on to another big gainer in the Dow today was McDonald's. McDonald's, interestingly, is getting gains. Well, not interestingly, it's predictably getting gains off of announcement of layoffs. So they would be flattening out their corporate structure, much of like what Tesla's done, what many companies have been doing over these last 6 months is flattening out their corporate structure, really trying to streamline by eliminating some high-level corporate jobs, eliminating their payroll, and ideally maintaining the same profit growth and levels of earnings that they have in the past. So the thoughts that they've eliminated cost while maintaining the ability to make money, and that is going to be a driver in the future. So we see a big 4.3% jump today. Another gainer for the Dow is actually General Electric, been beaten up over these last 2 years just by terrible management, honestly, but we've seen a lot of effort by Flannery to turn it around and a lot of big announcements coming from them today. Number one being that they launched an indoor farm venture with Jones Foods over in Europe now. It sounds like they're going to be building a high-rise and trying to farm indoors, which is potentially the future of what our farming industry will be, and a good first step towards automating farming. So this is an interesting long-term play from GE. Definitely going to garner some buzz and be positive media even if it doesn't work out. It's major for science and discovery. It also looks like they're going to be launching a company to monitor and be air control for drones. Currently, we have our government organizations doing that, the same ones that do airplanes, and it's not really effective since there's a lot of commercial use, or not commercial use, individual private use of drones just for your own footage, flying around, just entertainment and enjoyment. It's a hobby. So they're looking to launch their own private organization to do a better job of overseeing that, regulating it, making sure that it's safe for everybody and there's no pitfalls such as terrorism, which is obviously a major concern for the United States. So they're possibly obtaining government contracts through that venture there. Though even there have been concerns over this week that their dividend is still too high, even after their cut earlier this year or late last year. That their dividend is still way too high and it's not sustainable. They should really be focusing on growing and getting back to the profitable company that they once were. So keep your eye on GE, especially those ventures seem really interesting, but mostly keep your eye on their dividend and their earnings coming up. I know they beat earlier in May or end of April, I forget which it was. They beat earlier this year. They look to be on the up and up. They sold their railroad company, which was struggling. So GE is one to watch. They're definitely a big staple in the United States, one of the largest, longest standing companies that we have. So I wouldn't expect them to go bankrupt, but definitely keep your eye on it, see what parts they continue to sell and what they have planned for the future and their growth. All right, moving on. I wanted to cover Macy's. I can't believe I didn't have a chance to cover this earlier, as it's totally exploded this week. There's been reports coming out that retail is on the up and up. It's believed that people are actually going to be going back to malls and shifting away from online shopping. I'm not sure if that's going to really be the case, but regardless, Macy's has been absolutely crushing it. They've had consistent online retail growth. They've been improving their reward system. But it's possible that they're overheated off of this report that people are going to be coming back to the malls because, while that sounds like a nice idea in theory, I'm not sure that's the way our society is really going with physical shopping making a comeback in any way, especially with the total availability of online alternatives at this point. But yeah, I mean, again, they've made some strides in their loyalty program and their marketing online to continue growing that platform and continue the return purchasers to push growth in that way, or return customers, and hopefully push growth that way. But again, it's possible that this is overbought and that they're will be looking to drop back down to the mid to high 30s in the coming few weeks. So keep an eye on it, definitely. Next up, we had Smucker's reporting earnings today. Total miss. Did not hit revenue. Did not hit earnings. And you can see them fall really fast. I think they fell way deeper. I think 7.5%, 8% today, before recovering slightly end of day. Looking at their PE numbers, it's okay for a consumer staple. Their dividend's not that great. So honestly, in my opinion, there might be some better alternatives, but that's definitely something to consult an advisor about if you're looking to get into Schmuckers. But again, the jam maker consumer staples not holding up to earnings today and really taking a hit. Moving on, some Carl Icahn news, starting with Allergen. We have an announcement coming out today that Carl Icahn has begun to take a small position in Allergen, and immediately you get a 5% jump in the stock. And honestly, I don't know how I feel about this type of investing. This convenient leak that comes out that makes Carl Icahn an automatic winner in the play, regardless of if it pans out in the long run. He's an immediate 5% winner because of this convenient leak that he's actually made a small acquisition into Allergan, which is a company he's actually supported in the past, and he supports their CEO and their management team. So not a surprise here, but a little frustrating that just one investor can create the hype to jump a stock 5%, sort of like similar to the Kramer effect. It's almost irrational. Well, I guess Icahn has a little bit of a better track record than Kramer, but a little not irrational, but a little bit dishonest and ridiculous that the market can be manipulated in this way, to where he can announce a position and be an instant winner just by association. More Icahn news we have coming out of um, AmTrust Financial Services, which is another play that Icahn has made in the past. Icahn actually really pressured their team to sweeten the deal on their buyout, and that came through today, and they increased their total buyout, and resulting in a 3.26% jump in the stock. So AmTrust is being acquired by some, I forget which group off the top of my head, but Icahn is pushed to get a better deal for shareholders, and that's something he succeeded in doing. As of course he has a lot of backing from the public and from his team, and a lot of capital for that backing. So he's another example of his track record. He just pushed the stock higher 3% by laying out the financials to his purchasers and to the stock owners, and showing them they should be getting a better deal, and they've actually gotten that today. More cool news for the future coming out of Berkshire. I'll show you Berk B, since that's more affordable for your everyday guy. Not too crazy of anything too crazy coming out from Berkshire, but they've actually announced today that they will be hiring a CEO for their joint venture for their healthcare services that they're going to be launching with Amazon and JP Morgan. So it looks like they're going to go ahead and hire a CEO in the near future, pushing forward with their plans to launch this healthcare and really creating positive media for the stock. So I think all eyes are on how that's going to turn out. Amazon potentially being a major distributor, and then Berkshire and JP offering the financial backing that they need to get that done. So it could potentially change healthcare and pay off big for Warren Buffett and pay off big for JP Morgan. So all eyes on that project. Could definitely be a growth driver in the next year or two. Definitely take a while to set up something or a network so big and really disrupt an industry that's so massive. Moving on, MiMedx. Let's see. MiMedx has actually gotten into a bit of legal trouble. There's a lawsuit starting up about some financial fraud, and they've announced today that they'll be restating multiple years of financial statements, which obviously has caused a knee-jerk reaction from the market. Anytime there's a lawsuit, it's not good. Anytime they have admitted wrongdoing and they're going to have to actually restate their financial statements, it basically said, we lied, we overstated our earnings, we aren't as valuable as we said we were. That's a big loss for investors. So, expect further lawsuits to come with that sort of omission of guilt with the financial fraud there. So, keep your eyes on it. It's possible that when the restatement comes out that it's not nearly as bad as we thought, which is why you see a slight recovery in the market today here with this green candle down there. It's kind of small, but maybe you can see it. So keep your eyes on that. There's a chance that it recovers some of that 23.4% that it lost today. Moving over to Deutsche Bank, also had some big acquisition news coming out today. It looks like they're going to go forward with, or they're discussing a possible merger with Commerzbank, which is another European bank. There's rumors coming out today that they've actually contacted some of their larger shareholders and are discussing that acquisition, and with that news that they'll be expanding their business, we get a nice 1.5% jump, which far outpaces the near flat performance we had from the financial sector today. So really good news coming from Deutsche Bank, as it sounds like they may be expanding, and it may be a good time to get in ahead before that news. Or if you don't believe that that'll actually happen, it might be a good time to stay away. It might be a little bit overvalued. Moving on to some earnings beats, we have Five Below. Five Below is a really interesting website. They sell everything on their website is $1 to $5, and that's all they do. They're online retailers on cheap goods. They're located in the East Coast, and they absolutely crushed earnings today and continued their run up throughout open market hours beyond their pre-market trading. Gapped up huge. It's I'm honestly shocked. It's crazy. It was a crazy beat. I'll throw the exact numbers on the screen. But a lot of questions, honestly, for me. They still charge for shipping. It's about minimum $6 on your shipping fees. Further, on top of that, it takes at least 10 days for them to ship to the West Coast, so I have no idea how they're going to compete with Amazon on the other half of the United States, while they may be an effective company in the East Coast. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to scale or what their scalability is. So it's definitely something to look into. Um, Possible short play, possible long play if you're on the other side. I I don't think I'm long this company, to be perfectly frank, because they're going to struggle so much in the West Coast, which is obviously a major market for consumers over there in California, Washington, all up and down the coast. There's a lot of money over there beyond, and there's a lot to offer over there beyond what the East Coast has to offer. So I don't see them beating out Amazon in that regard. I see them getting quashed out in the near future. So we'll keep our eyes on it. We'll keep watching it, and see what happens next earnings report. Now, more acquisition news from AV Homes, which is a retail construction company, a residential construction company. Sorry about that. It's a residential construction company, uh, which had lackluster earnings today, but they also just announced a buyout of nearly $1 billion. And of course, following that immediately, we get a lawsuit coming in saying that that's not enough for shareholders. So we see a little bit more trying to get squeezed out of the acquisition offer. Even with poor earnings today, the acquisition offer results in a 28% jump in the share price. And with the lawsuit coming, there's a chance for that to go even higher in the near future. So we'll see how that acquisition pans out, if they end up getting the financing they need and getting that deal done. And one more news of acquisition for today for NXP Semiconductors. As many of you may already know, NXP is being bought out by Qualcomm. And today the Chinese government has announced that they won't be standing in the way of that deal. It's something that they don't see as being an antitrust issue, and they're likely going to allow Qualcomm to reach out and purchase this foreign company here. So that's a big news for Qualcomm there, and for NXPI shareholders, as they get a 5% boost on the acquisition news, or on the likelihood or on the news that the acquisition is more likely. Anyway, I think that's about it for today.